Good evening all. Today I would like to look at something fairly unique actually. It was kind of a chance find and it is this engine here. This is a Great Eastern J69. Well actually I believe the Great Eastern used a different classification, but anyway, they're usually known as the J69s. Now this is an engine that's not available ready to run, but it's one of those ones that's been on my must-have list for a while. I don't know if you have this, but for me, there's locomotives that I would quite like, wouldn't mind if I've got a bit of spare cash, and then there's the must-have locomotives, the ones that really bring something to whatever scenario it is that I have in mind. Does that make sense? What I mean is, my major interest in modelling is East London in the 50s and 60s, and these engines were very much, they were very much associated with that area. Now, this is actually a body kit by CDC Models. CDC, I rather like. Their thing is London. They started out doing a lot of card kits of London-based buildings, and they've diversified. They have a side project, side company, whatever you'd call it, called the Condensing Loco Company. That does 3D printed locos and rolling stock, again associated with London. And this is a bit of an oddity, because they were advertising a small batch of these on eBay. It's not part of their main 3D printed range. It comes fully finished, like the safety valves, the handrails, the brake pipes. They were all already added. The paintwork is also theirs. They have an option where they will fully finish it for an extra tenner. I didn't take that because I thought I'd try my hand at adding my own transfers, which I haven't done yet. It cost a little over 40 quid, not including postage. As I say, they offer an option to do the markings for an extra £10, which, if you're not really into finishing it yourself, is not a bad deal. But they were plain black mostly. There was one example that was the pilot engine at Liverpool Street, and there's an interesting story about that, which I will tell you in a second. It fits on a ready-to-run chassis, which is the Hornby Terrier. The old Hornby Terrier, not the new one. It's the same one that Dapol used to do. You can get an old Hornby or Dapol Terrier for around 30 to 40 quid second-hand. You might do better now that there's the Hornby and the Rails updated Terriers. It's kind of appropriate because the J69s were designed for suburban passenger trains, much like the Terriers. Apart from that, it doesn't have any coal in the bunker, but that's not a big deal. I mean, I think if you're buying a body kit, you're probably prepared to do a bit of your own work, so it's no biggie. My only real qualm with it is it's a sort of odd kind of rippling effect, which is, I guess, an artifact of the 3D printing. Like, I tried painting over it and it's still visible. Kind of hope that weathering will get rid of that, or at least distract from it. But on the whole, I'm pleased with my purchase. Oh, there was one minor thing, which was that one of the buffers was chipped, and I don't know if that was me or them. I replaced it with a tiny little circle of card. Again, I'm kind of hoping that weathering will cover that up. Where was I? I've lost my train of thought, so to speak. Yes. So, I'm pretty pleased with my purchase. It's an engine that's not normally available. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody introduces it in the not too distant future. It's a good complement to engines like the N7 from Oxford Rail or the J15 from Hornby. Like I say, it's a good East London engine. They got dispersed elsewhere. They worked, I believe, as far up as Scotland. They were built in 1904, and I understand the last one was withdrawn in 1962. There is one that's preserved as part of the National Collection. Now, some of you may be wondering, having been lured in by the slightly clickbaity title, what this has to do with Thomas. Now, remember I mentioned that one of these was the pilot at Liverpool Street Station? Well, that is where the Thomas connection comes in. Now, before you comment, and I accept that some people will have already commented without actually watching the video, such is the lot of the YouTuber, I am aware that Reverend Audrey based his original Thomas model on Great Northern Railway J50, and that Reginald Payne based his illustrations, which have formed the basis of all subsequent versions of Thomas, on a London, Brighton and South Coast E2. Don't worry, I am aware of that. But in the first Thomas book, called Thomas the Tank Engine, which was actually the second book in the series, Thomas works as a station pilot, much like one of these. And the Reverend Audrey actually based at least 2 of the stories, possibly 3, on the service out of Liverpool Street. So these engines originally worked a service known as the Jazz service. It was a commuter service. It was called the Jazz train, I understand, because of the colours on the doors, which indicated the different classes. I've heard other explanations, but that's the most common one. It was a commuter service with a really fast turnaround, like really fast. Like, the train would come into Liverpool Street, they'd uncouple the coaches, couple an engine on the other end, and off they'd go again. Really intensive. And sometimes things would go wrong. For instance, you know that story where Thomas accidentally gets stuck on the back of Gordon's train, and Gordon goes off with him still coupled? That happened on the Jazz train. That story where Thomas goes off without the coaches, again, happened to the Jazz train. Now, the basis of that story, Thomas's train, comes from the fact that in the days of the Jazz trains, in the later days, engines like this were relegated to shunting, and N7s, which were bigger, pulled the Jazz train. But when there was no N7 available, sometimes the Liverpool Street pilot was drafted in. In the story Thomas's Train, Henry is supposed to pull the train. He's ill. The only engine available is Thomas, the station pilot. Is that all making sense? I'm sort of worried that I'm babbling a bit here. Anyway, there's a third story in the book which I think is based off the Jazz train, but don't quote me on that, where Thomas goes off so fast that he leaves the guard behind. No, wait. No, that's not in Thomas the Tank Engine. That's in Tank Engine Thomas again. Well, anyway, I believe that's another Jazz train story. So yeah, I think there is, all in all, a pretty decent basis for saying that the J69 is the original Thomas. I mean, none of that's really relevant to the model I have here. I just thought it was quite interesting. So, The CDC J69, this is what it looks like. You've seen how much it costs. Performance is as good as the chassis you put it on, and I'm pretty happy with it. So, I hope you found that informative, educational, interesting, and I will see you very soon for another video. Cheerio.